wanted to do something a little different. We'll call this a campfire story because who doesn't like a good campfire story, right? Now, was an Eagle Scout and was with the Scout Troop for many years as a youth and adult. Many fond memories. Some of the scouts I still keep track of on Facebook. One of our Eagle Scouts from the troop, he's now a fire chief in a Central Florida city. So I'm really proud to hear that news. So, this is actually a true story, something that happened to me. And I like to listen to Bigfoot stories or Sasquatch stories on the internet. They're kind of addictive to listen to. I especially love ones that you can use as campfire stories or that happen to scouts like I was. I always like to relate it to myself in some way. So, anyway, when I was growing up with the troop, I like to ambush people and surprise and scare them and sneak up on them at night. Uh, and so, I have fond memories of doing that. I'd appear and disappear. And so people started nicknaming me Sasquatch. So when I was a teenager, one of the names I had in the troop was Sasquatch because, I just appear and disappear out in the woods. Very adept at that. And then when I joined the Army, we'd go out in the field at Fort Jackson. And then when I was in Germany, the field maneuvers I thought were even easier than the troop campouts because we were with a lot of soldiers who had never been in the outdoors. So, I thought it was pretty funny. Somebody who's not used to camping out. Well, I used to go every month, and when I started reenacting, uh, sometimes I camp out every weekend during the cooler months. So I had plenty of outdoors time. The virtual background I have behind me is a coastal hammock in Florida. We camped in some that looked exactly like that. So, that brings back some memories. So the story is I had just gotten out of the Army, and this was right 6 months after I'd gotten out, and I was still in very good shape. I was in the reserves for a couple more years afterwards. And so I was still doing crazy things like getting up before dawn and running a couple miles before daylight there, so, um, which of course those days are past. And so I was in very good shape at the time, and the troop needed some leaders who could take a week out of their schedule and go up with the troop to summer camp up on the Blue Ridge Mountains, uh, West Virginia or Virginia. I hate to say that I can't even remember where it was exactly, but it was in the mountains. And the camp we were at, we hiked all week long, and the trail, uh, the scout reservation owned a lot of land. Actually, the trail would go all the way around, and the base camp would be in the middle. So even though we take these several mile hikes each day, the camp still had access, just a few miles away from where we were at. And that will be part of the story. So we went up to the trip. It took 2 days driving from Florida, and we spent the night in I think in gymnasium and Air Force Base in Macon, Georgia, and sleeping on the floor. I guess I caught something, some dust or something. I got I don't know, flu or virus or something. Uh, Gosh, and so when we got to camp, I was feeling really bad. Headache, dizziness, very weak. Um, I couldn't even hardly stand. I was just constantly dizzy. So after a day on the trail and a night, they decided, and I kind of decided myself that I couldn't keep up. I was just too weak to tag along. So they said, okay, Chris, well, why don't you just go down to the base camp and rest it all out and rejoin us when you're, feeling better. So, I decided to do that. So in the morning, they went off on the trail, and I went the other direction down the road, down the mountain, 2 miles to camp. I thought it was kind of funny that they let me walk alone on a road a couple miles. when I could hardly stand. I was so dizzy. And so I got back to camp, and the base camp, the troop had a campsite there of these green canvas wall tents, kind of like army tents. They're 8 foot long, square, and they're like a sauna in the summertime. So you have to throw the sides up to air the place out and cool. Fortunately, there in the mountains, the mosquitoes weren't a problem. So I went back to camp and spent that day resting, getting better. And I was in my tent, and a couple tents away was another of the kids in the troop. And he is one of the younger kids, and he didn't go hiking because I guess this might have been his first year in the troop. And so they had whatever activities for him for the kids that stayed behind. I don't know, working on merit badges or something. I can't really remember. So, gosh, I was almost passed out that day, delirious and terrible, high fever, and I just laid there. I don't remember going to a doctor or anything. I mean, I must have met the staff, uh, about my condition, but I don't really remember what happened or what I did or what went on. I just remember in the evening, uh, there about supper time, I got up. I felt a little better. Getting up, I had my backpack with my trail food in it, so I had some crackers and tuna fish or whatever for supper, and that was it. Was sitting at the picnic table in the campsite, surprised a deer, so a deer goes snorting and running off. That really startled me. Oh, it's just a deer, it really made me jump. So anyway, the other scout, a couple tents over, he knew my reputation for uh, ambushing people and surprising people and scaring them in the dark. Don't know how that got around. So uh, the story he told me, and he only told me this a couple years ago when we got reconnected on Facebook. He said, "You remember at camp there was somebody walking around at the campsite at night in the bushes, and I thought it was you sneaking up, but I was sick and passed out in my tent and sleeping like a log. I don't even remember the Earth Scout being there. I was just so bad off, but um, so he concluded, I guess later on, that must have been a Sasquatch walking around. Now I've never heard of any reports of Sasquatch being in this area or at this camp, or any stories from other scouts at the camp. They may be out there. I've just never heard them. I know, there's Sasquatch reportings all over the country, but of course, this was 30 years ago. We didn't have the internet. Um, we didn't know these stories. It's funny that I've had a lot of strange experiences, and uh, most of them were where Sasquatch hotspots are. And experiencing the Cal Forest several times in the Everglades and in southeast Oklahoma, and those are all hotspots for Sasquatch sightings. But this was up in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and so he didn't tell me that uh, until years later, or he may have told me back then, but I just didn't remember. But there's more to that. So the next day, I was feeling really good, so I said, "Well, I'm ready to go back for the crew hiking on the trail." And I don't even remember how I got back. I think they may have drove me up there and dropped me off on the mountaintop there, and the troop soon arrived. "Hey, Chris is here! Yay!" And but I noticed the area we were camping at was one of the few areas uh, where we got a good view at night. It's kind of on the side of a ridge, saw some mountains, and we were at a power line easement. So there's these big towers of these electrical lines, uh, really high up there, but you're underneath and they're buzzing and humming, and that kind of scared me the most. So anyway, we're camping out there that night, and going up there or around the camp, there was we saw some houses or a barn. So apparently we were close to the boundary of the scout reservation, between the reservation and private property up in the mountains. Um, so yeah, I figured we're, not far from some houses or something. And the nights were really dark. This was a new moon phase. And one of the things I was really good at back then was telling time and direction by the stars at night, knowing the moon phases. So this was the time when the moon's not out and it's just pitch black. So we're camped under these power lines and we're just doing minimal, gear, because we have to hike up and down the mountains. At night, we throw all the food and cooking stuff in a bear bag and tie up in the tree. And I'm in my little dome tent, that's barely big enough for me. In fact, I would lay down and my head would be poking out one side, my feet would be poking out the other. Because I'm packing light, I have like a thermarest mattress and a blanket. I don't even have a sleeping bag. I'm packing as light as I can. And since it's the summertime and packing light in camping there, you wear the same pair of clothing all week long. So what, just sleep in my underwear or my boxer shorts. So I'm laying there and being in the army and being a real ambush guy and playing these field games in the army where you're defending post against another platoon, making sure they don't sneak up. I got really good on the sounds of things moving through the woods, even if deer would surprise me. But deer can move real quietly. It's when they snort that surprise you. So I'm laying in bed, and I have a watch on that has fluorescent or luminescent hands, so I can see the time, the glow from the time, and I just have a little pen light for light. I don't have a big flashlight, so even if I walk outside, it just lights up the area around my feet or whatever. It doesn't really, you can't really shine out into the trees. So I'm laying there. It's about midnight, and I hear somebody coming through the woods, walking, and I don't know if I thought I might have seen a light or something, but can't remember on that. It's been 30 years, but this incident I actually remember very well. So to me, in my mind, it's obvious that a two-legged person, bipedal person, or somebody's coming up through the woods, coming up to where our campsite is, and gets really close to where my tent is. And I'm thinking, oh, it's some hillbilly out hunting at night or poaching. He got lost or on the scout reservation. Nobody's supposed to be hunting out here at night, especially not around the scout camp. It's probably just a local hillbilly or something. So I'm listening, and to me, it sounds like he sat down or laid down, and I'm listening to this. And I'm knowing somebody's out there because my senses are alert. It's what I've been trained for. It's what I've trained myself to hear. So I'm listening to that, and it gets to be about 1:30 or something, I think, and I have to go up and pee. Most guys have to do it at night. So I get up. I figure I'll just get up and let him know we're here, and then he'll leave and get out. I can't realize he's at the wrong place. I'll get up with my flashlight and kind of wave it around, and he'll see that and leave, and everything will be cool. And of course, since I didn't want to camp directly under the power lines, if I couldn't help it, I was as far away over right to the edge of the woods. I mean, the trees begin, no more than 5 feet out of the door of my tent. And so you have the kind of the mowed area for the easement or the grassy area, and then you have the wood lines. And so I was right next to the wood lines. So I get up from my tent. I'm just in my boxers and all that. And as soon as I get up and kind of do my business, I hear bam. And I thought it was a shotgun blast or a rifle blast or something. It was just a blam, a pop. I saw no flash, no muzzle flash, but I just figured the bam was from a shotgun blast. I'm thinking that's a hillbilly poaching out there. And I hear the guy running, boom, 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 running away really fast. And I just hear him go the distance. And I said, man, that guy is good. His night vision is good. He just know where he's going. If that was me and I'd be running like that, I'd be T-boning myself on a tree limb, which I've actually done before, right in front of the troop to the amusement of the other guys. Amazing. He didn't bust his tail running into a tree or something, running like that at night. So I said, man, that guy's good. That's wow. But nothing more that night. And I mean, my heart was racing. I was a bit startled by what happened, especially from the blast I heard. Next morning, I asked anybody else, did you hear like a shotgun blast at night or somebody walking around or somebody running away? Nobody else saw anything. I was the only one. Everyone else had been hiking all day. So when they go to sleep and crash, they're out. They're done for the night. They don't wake up at all. Of course, I got trucked into the site. So, I didn't have to walk all day. And so anyway, nobody else heard it. I was the only one. So I forgot all about it, put it out of my mind, that uh, if, and I've had many unexplained things camping out in the woods, many neat things like bioluminescence, mold growing on the side of the log that glows in the dark. That's pretty cool, seeing things like that. And so completely forgot about that. And that was about 30 years ago, almost 28, 1993, almost 30 years. Didn't really think of it much. So anyway, one of my pastimes has been about Bigfoot stories, Sasquatch stories, listening to them on the internet. And I've been a big fan of this since I was a kid. When I was 10 years old, in fifth grade, I had a friend and we were telling each other stories. This was when the skunk ape became famous in South Florida. So we were telling each other stories and scaring each other. And then I remember there was a camp out I was on, and I was about 13 years old at this time. And I was with my best friend at the campfire. We were kind of some of the younger scouts, the older kids uh, went into town a couple miles away uh, to get slushies or something at the general store. And of course, it was dark at night. We didn't want to do that. So my friend and we were just around the campfire and, after dinner and everything. And Scoutmaster George McCammon comes up and he pulls a prank on us. Uh, he he became an Episcopal priest there, but he was a lot of fun. So he gives me a bucket, says, "Here, Chris, go get some water and all that, for the dishes. So, I need you all clean some pots and pans." And there's a pitcher pump close by where you crank the handle and pump the water out. So I go over there pumping the water, and as I'm doing that, George he sneaks around back. He's rattling the bushes. So, oh, I think we have enough water now. So I go back to camp. And George told me later what he did. We got a big laugh out of that. And my best friend Tim and I think we ended up throwing water on each other more on the dishes. And I remember getting just soaked there, but just things kids do for pastime out in the woods. So many fond memories, but that time camping, camping up in the Blue Ridge Parkway in the Appalachians, whatever. That was kind of a pretty startling experience. And I had other ones more interesting than that. Maybe I'll tell that sometime. But I was listening on the Bigfoot stories. As I mentioned, I like to listen to those. I heard one recently where uh, man, he had a nice house in the rural area and on the wood line. I guess they're having problems with the Sasquatch. He said the Sasquatch knocked on the tree with a log. It said sounded just like a shotgun. And when he said that, it's like all the memory came back of that incident. It's like, wow, I like totally blocked that memory, totally forgot about that until he mentioned that. So when he did that, and I was thinking of the story that, the Earth Scout and a couple tents over from mine heard somebody walking by at night. It's like maybe there was a Sasquatch experience, but it was dark and nobody saw anything. So I can't say for certain without exactly seeing what was going on, but it had all the characteristics of what people say are a Sasquatch experience. So I'll just say this is a good campfire experience and a story you can tell all the kids tonight and scare them and keep them up all night out in the woods so they'll be jumping in an armadillo. So hope you enjoyed it.